The night I spilled a pot of spicy stew across Adrian Cole's perfect dinner, I thought I had destroyed my future. I didn't know I had just saved his. The copper handles burned through my oven mitts as I pushed through the swinging kitchen doors of the Beaumont Hotel, carrying 12 quarts of bubbling beef stew into the most expensive private dining room in Manhattan. Steam blurred my vision. Roasted peppers stung my eyes. Somewhere beyond the velvet curtains, a violin played softly while people who had never worried about rent laughed over glasses of wine that cost more than my monthly electricity bill. My name was Claire Bennett. I was 27, exhausted, and one missed payment away from losing the small diner my mother had left me in Queens. The Beaumont was paying me $300 to cover one catering shift. $300 meant groceries, half the utility bill, and perhaps 1 week without another red envelope appearing beneath the diner door. My instructions were simple. Carry the stew across the marble floor. Set it on the silver service table. Keep my head down. Remain invisible. I had made it almost 20 feet when a woman in a white silk dress snapped her fingers. Every nearby server froze. She sat at the center table beneath a chandelier bright enough to make midnight look like noon. Diamonds circled her throat. Her blonde hair had not moved once all evening. I knew her name from the staff briefing. Vanessa Price. She was the daughter of a financier who owned buildings, newspapers, and apparently the patience of everyone around him. Across from her sat Adrian Cole. His name had been spoken more quietly. Some employees called him an investor. Others simply warned us not to ask questions. He wore a black suit without a tie, his white shirt open at the collar. His expression was calm in a way that made everyone else in the room nervous. Adrian never raised his voice. He did not need to. People moved when he looked at them. You, Vanessa said. A young busboy named Ethan stopped beside her chair. He was 19, new to the hotel, and saving money for community college. My napkin fell. Ethan looked down. The napkin rested beside her silver heel. Of course, ma'am. He bent to retrieve it, but Vanessa placed her shoe over the fabric. Not that one. It touched the floor. Several guests laughed. Ethan's face turned red. I'll bring you another. Then why are you still standing here? He stepped backward too quickly and struck the edge of my service cart. One will twist it. The pot shifted. I tightened both hands around the handles, but hot steam escaped beneath my mitt and scorched my fingers. I jerked. The copper pot tilted. Time slowed. I saw Ethan's frightened eyes. I saw Vanessa pulling away. I saw the perfect white tablecloth waiting beneath 12 quarts of red stew. Then gravity finished what embarrassment had started. The stew rolled across the table in a bright, fragrant wave. A crystal glass toppled. White roses scattered across the cloth. Vanessa screamed as a splash struck the front of Adrian's jacket. The violin stopped in the middle of a note. Silence filled the room. Thick. Complete. I could hear broth dripping onto the marble floor. I could hear my own breathing. Adrian did not move. A strip of red pepper rested against his cuff. One of his security men stepped forward, but Adrian lifted a single finger. The man stopped immediately. That frightened me more than shouting would have. I'm sorry, Ethan whispered. Vanessa stood so quickly that her chair scraped across the floor. Sorry? Do you have any idea what you've done? Ethan looked ready to disappear. I lowered the pot before I dropped what remained of it. It was my fault, I said. That was not entirely true, but fear had already stolen the boy's voice. Vanessa turned toward me. Then you should be fired. Claire, the banquet manager warned from behind me. I ignored him. My heart hammered against my ribs, but I looked at Adrian instead of the woman demanding my job. Fire me if you have to, I said. But don't punish the kid. The silence changed. Adrian lifted his gaze to mine. His eyes were dark, steady, and impossible to read. I expected anger. Instead, he studied me as though I had done something more surprising than ruining his dinner. You're accepting responsibility for him? He asked. His voice was low and controlled. I'm accepting responsibility for what happened. Even if it costs you your job, I'm guessing it already has. Something moved at the corner of his mouth. Not quite a smile. Vanessa folded her arms. Adrian, this is ridiculous. Let management deal with her. He did not look at Vanessa. What's your name? Claire Bennett. Do you always challenge strangers before introducing yourself, Claire Bennett? Only when they're blaming the wrong person. Behind me, the banquet manager made a sound that resembled a prayer. Adrian picked up the clean napkin beside his plate and wiped a line of broth from his wrist. His movements were slow and precise. Then his attention shifted toward the overturned wine glass. The pale gold liquid had mixed with the stew, spreading across the white cloth in cloudy rings. For the first time, Adrian's expression hardened. "Everyone leaves," he said. No one argued. Chairs moved. Guests collected their purses and jackets. Vanessa opened her mouth, but one glance from Adrian silenced her. Two security men guided the guests toward the doors. Ethan hurried past me. "Thank you," he whispered. Within seconds, the dining room was empty except for Adrian, the banquet manager, two guards, a tall gray-eyed man named Noah Grant, and me. Noah approached the table and lifted the fallen wine glass with a folded cloth. He examined the liquid, then looked at Adrian. "Sir, don't touch anything else." My stomach tightened. "What does that mean?" Adrian rose. He was taller than I had realized, and without the table between us, the room suddenly felt smaller. He removed his stained jacket and handed it to Noah. "It means," he said, "you may not have ruined my dinner." I looked at the glass. "Then why are the doors being guarded?" Adrian stopped several feet away from me. He did not crowd me or threaten me. Somehow, his restraint carried more weight than either would have. "Because someone prepared this evening very carefully," he said. "The flowers, the seating arrangements, the wine, even the people serving it." Cold spread through me despite the heat rising from the spilled stew. "I was called in this afternoon. I wasn't supposed to be here." "Exactly." Noah sealed the wine glass inside a clear evidence bag. Adrian watched him before returning his attention to me. "Someone changed the service schedule an hour before dinner," he said. "Someone made sure that bottle reached my table. Then you entered the room carrying a pot large enough to destroy their timing. It was an accident." "I believe you." His answer came too quickly. It should have comforted me. It did not. "Then let me go home." Adrian glanced toward the closed doors. "I can't do that yet." "You said you believed me." "I do." "That doesn't sound like belief." His expression softened by a fraction. Believing you're innocent and believing you're safe are two different things. The candles trembled beneath the air conditioning vents. Red broth stained the white table between us like a warning. I thought about the diner in Queens. My younger brother waiting for me to text. The unpaid bills beneath the cash register. All the ordinary problems I had understood an hour earlier suddenly felt very far away. "Whoever planned this doesn't know me," I said. "They don't need to." Adrian's voice dropped lower. "They only need to know their plan failed when you entered the room." Noah's phone vibrated. He read the screen, and the color drained from his face. The kitchen camera footage was erased 10 minutes ago. Adrian became perfectly still. I looked from him to the guarded doors. "What happens now?" He held my gaze as the violinist's abandoned bow slowly slid from a nearby chair and struck the floor. "Now," Adrian said, "the person who tried to compromise me decides whether you were an accident or an enemy." Noah locked the evidence bag inside a black case while Adrian stood between me and the guarded doors. For several long seconds, no one spoke. The dining room still smelled of peppers, wine, and expensive candles. My hands began to shake now that the danger had acquired a shape I could not understand. "I need to call my brother." Adrian nodded once. "Use your phone." I reached into my apron, but Noah held out his hand. "We should check it first." "No," my answer came out sharper than I intended. Noah looked toward Adrian. "Claire," Adrian said. "Someone erased the hotel's security footage. Your phone may have been accessed." "Then I'll turn it off." "That won't protect you. Neither will handing it to a stranger." A faint tension passed through the room. People were clearly accustomed to obeying Adrian. I was beginning to understand that. I was also too frightened and tired to care. Adrian stepped away from the door. "Make the call." I dialed Liam. He answered after the first ring. "Claire, are you okay? You were supposed to text 20 minutes ago." Hearing his voice almost broke something inside me. "I'm fine." The shift ran late. Adrian watched me from across the ruined table. "Lock the diner when you close," I continued. "Don't wait for me." "Why?" "A plumbing problem at the hotel." It was a terrible lie. Liam knew it. "Claire, I'll explain later." I ended the call before my voice betrayed me. Adrian collected his coat from the back of a chair. "My driver will take you home." "No, that wasn't a request." "Then the answer is still no." His eyes narrowed slightly. "You heard what Noah said." "I heard a great deal of speculation." "I also heard you say I was innocent." "You are." "Then I'm leaving." I removed my stained apron and placed it beside the copper pot. The banquet manager avoided my eyes. I walked toward the doors. One of the guards glanced at Adrian, but Adrian made a small motion, and the man stepped aside. I expected someone to stop me in the hallway. No one did. That unsettled me even more. The elevator ride took less than a minute, but when the doors opened, my reflection in the mirrored walls looked years older. I crossed the marble lobby, pushed through the revolving doors, and stepped into the cold Manhattan night. A light rain had begun. Taxis hissed across the wet pavement. For the first time in an hour, the city sounded normal. I wanted to believe normal still belonged to me. I took the subway to Queens, changed trains twice, and repeatedly checked the dark windows behind me. No black suits. No guarded doors. No Adrian Cole. By the time I reached Bennett's diner, it was nearly midnight. The neon sign buzzed above the entrance, one blue letter flickering as it had for the past 3 years. Liam stood behind the counter, wiping the same clean spot with a towel. At 22, he had our mother's brown eyes and none of her patience. Plumbing problem? He asked. A pot spilled. That part was true. On someone important. How important? I removed my coat and hung it beside the kitchen door. The kind of important that makes managers forget how to breathe. Liam studied my face. Did they fire you? I don't know. Before he could ask another question, the bell above the door rang. A man in a gray raincoat entered and sat at the far end of the counter. He looked ordinary. Mid-40s. Clean shoes. No umbrella. That last detail stayed with me. Rain darkened the shoulders of his coat, but his hair was dry. The kitchen is closing, Liam said. Coffee is fine, the man replied. His eyes shifted toward me. And the spicy beef stew. My skin went cold. We had not served that stew in the diner for months. The recipe belonged to my mother, and I only prepared it for private catering jobs. We're out, I said. The man smiled without warmth. That's unfortunate. I heard it made quite an impression tonight. Liam looked at me. I reached beneath the counter for my phone, but the stranger stood. He placed a $20 bill beside his untouched cup. Accidents have consequences, Miss Bennett. Then he walked out. I waited until the door closed before moving. Someone had written 5 words in black ink across the back of the bill. Stay out of perfect plans. Liam read the message over my shoulder. Who was that? My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered without speaking. Adrian's voice came through, calm and immediate. Don't leave the diner. I looked through the front window. 2 black sport utility vehicles had stopped across the street, parked 30 feet apart. Their headlights were off. Their windows were dark. Are those yours? I whispered. The vehicle on the left is mine. Rain streaked the glass between me and the street. And the one on the right. A brief pause followed. It isn't. The engine of the second vehicle started. My breath caught. Adrian's voice sharpened. Claire, take your brother into the kitchen. Lock the front door. My people are coming inside. I don't want your people in my diner. You can dislike the idea after you're safe. The doors of the left vehicle opened. Noah stepped out with 2 men, all 3 moving quickly through the ring. The second vehicle pulled away from the curb and disappeared around the corner before they reached us. I locked the door and guided Liam into the kitchen. Noah entered after showing us his empty hands. We need to move, he said. Where? Somewhere secure. No, Noah exhaled. Miss Bennett. Claire, Adrian said through the phone. Listen to him. You listen to me. I'm not disappearing into a locked house because you decided it was necessary. Silence. Then Adrian asked a question I had not expected. What do you need? My brother comes with me. No one takes our phones. No locked bedroom doors. No one follows us into private rooms. And no lies. Noah's eyebrows rose. Adrian answered without hesitation. Agreed. All of it. All of it. You don't get to change your mind later. His voice softened. Neither do you. 20 minutes later, Liam and I sat in the back of Noah's vehicle while Queens passed beyond the rain-streaked windows. I watched our diner disappear behind us, its blue sign shrinking into the darkness. Noah worked silently on a tablet from the front passenger seat. A security image appeared on the screen. I recognized the service hallway at the Beaumont. The man in the gray raincoat stood beside the kitchen entrance several hours earlier. Someone was holding the door open for him. Noah enlarged the image. Only an arm was visible. A black sleeve. A hand. A silver watch. The watch was identical to the one Noah wore. He became completely still. That's impossible, he whispered. I leaned forward. Why? Noah stared at the photograph as though it had spoken his name. Because according to the access records, I was the one who let him inside. The city lights slid across the windshield in long silver streaks. For the first time since I had met him, Noah's calm expression had disappeared. "Someone copied my access credentials," he said. Liam leaned forward beside me. "Can they do that?" "Not easily." Noah enlarged the image. Again, the silver watch, the black sleeve, and the angle of the hand all pointed toward him. "Only 3 people can authorize alterations to those records," he continued. "Adrian?" I asked. "Adrian, me, and the director of the hotel's security systems." "Who is the director?" Noah shut off the screen. "A man who has worked with Adrian for 14 years. That doesn't answer my question. It's the only answer I can give until I know more." I sat back and watched Queens disappear behind us. The rain softened as we crossed the bridge into Manhattan, but the pressure in my chest remained. Liam reached for my hand. I let him hold it. The vehicle turned north, away from the hotel district, and passed through a private gate surrounding a stone townhouse that looked older than the city block around it. Warm light glowed behind tall windows. There were no signs, names, or visible guards. I suspected that meant there were more guards than I could see. Adrian waited inside the entrance hall. He had changed into a charcoal sweater and dark trousers, but the absence of a suit did nothing to make him less commanding. His gaze moved first to me, then to Liam, checking that neither of us was injured before he spoke. "You're safe here." That's what powerful men always say before explaining the rules. Liam gave me a warning look. Adrian did not react. "You already gave me your rules. I want to hear you repeat them." Noah looked between us, clearly uncertain whether I was brave or simply exhausted. Adrian answered without irritation. "Your brother stays with you. Your phones remain in your possession. No locked bedroom doors. No one enters a private room without permission. No lies. And no one follows us around the house. Security will remain outside. Outside the rooms or outside the building." "Outside the rooms." "That isn't the same thing." "No," he said. "It's the safest compromise I can offer." I waited for the order concealed beneath the courtesy. It did not come. "Fine. For tonight." A housekeeper named Mrs. Alvarez showed Liam to a guest room upstairs. I refused to follow them. My clothes smelled of peppers and hotel smoke, and my nerves felt too tightly. Stretched for sleep. Adrian noticed. "There's food in the kitchen." "I'm not hungry." My stomach answered with a quiet growl. Liam smiled despite everything. "She's lying." Adrian looked at me. "That violates one of your rules." It was a small lie. "You didn't create exceptions." I almost smiled. Almost. The kitchen was larger than my entire diner. White cabinets reached the ceiling. Copper pans hung above a marble island. 3 refrigerators stood behind paneled doors. Everything gleamed without looking used. I opened one refrigerator and found the ingredients arranged with military precision. Beef stock, carrots, onions, fresh peppers, parsley. "Does anyone actually cook here?" I asked. "Sometimes." Adrian remained near the doorway, giving me space. "By anyone, do you mean someone you pay?" "Usually." "Then the answer is no." I found a cutting board and began working because my hands needed something familiar to do. Slice, turn, breathe. The knife tapped against the wood in a steady rhythm. Liam sat at the island and watched me reconstruct the evening from ingredients that made sense. "You're making stew again?" he asked. "I'm making food. It looks like the same stew." "It isn't the same batch." Adrian stepped closer when I opened the smoked paprika. The scent moved through the kitchen. He stopped. It was not dramatic, just a small interruption in his breathing. I noticed because everything else about him was so carefully controlled. "What?" I asked. "Nothing." That wasn't nothing. He looked toward the pot. "My mother used to make something similar." His voice changed when he said the word mother. It lost its edge. "Was she a good cook?" "No." The answer came so quickly that Liam laughed. Adrian glanced at him before adding, "But she believed confidence could replace measurements." "That sounds familiar," Liam said, pointing toward me. I dropped the peppers into the pot. They hissed against the hot oil. "My mother measured everything by hand," I said. "A little of this, a little more of that. She never wrote anything down. Neither did mine." "Then how do you know this is similar?" "The smell." For several minutes, no one spoke. The stew simmered. Rain tapped gently against the windows. The townhouse no longer felt like a fortress. It felt like a kitchen after midnight, with 3 exhausted people pretending the world outside could wait. I filled 3 bowls. Liam tasted his first and immediately reached for a glass of water. You made it hotter. You complain every time. Because every time, you deny it. Adrian took one spoonful. His expression remained calm, but his eyes watered slightly. I waited. Well, he swallowed. It needs more salt. Liam stared at him. I laughed before I could stop myself. Adrian looked at me, and for the first time, I saw a genuine smile. Small, brief, human. You're either very brave or completely unable to taste, I said. Both have been suggested. He took another spoonful. My mother made this on Sundays. The whole house smelled of peppers until Monday morning. What happened to her? The smile faded, but he did not retreat behind silence. She became ill when I was 20. She was gone before the end of that year. I'm sorry. So am I. The simplicity of his answer touched me more than a dramatic confession would have. There was no performance. No request for sympathy. Only a truth placed carefully between us. I looked at the man who could silence entire rooms and tried to imagine him at 20, standing in a kitchen like this one, memorizing a scent because he did not know it would soon become a memory. For one dangerous moment, I forgot to be afraid of him. Then Noah entered carrying a folder. His face had regained its discipline. We traced the message left at the diner, he said. The account used to arrange the vehicle was created this morning. The company that owns it is connected to Richard Price. Adrian set down his spoon. The warmth disappeared from the room. Vanessa's father? I asked. Yes, Noah replied. There's more. He placed the folder on the island in front of Adrian. I saw my name printed across the top page. Claire Bennett. Bennett's Diner. Loan status. Property assessment. Every private struggle of my life had been reduced to neat black lines. What is that? Adrian did not answer quickly enough. I pulled the folder toward me. The diner's loan had been transferred to a new owner that afternoon. Cole Urban Holdings. I read the name twice. My chest tightened. You bought my debt. Liam stopped eating. Adrian stood. Claire, you bought my diner after knowing me for less than one evening? The lender was preparing to call the loan. So you decided to own it instead? I decided to prevent Richard Price from acquiring it. Without asking me. There wasn't time. I pushed the folder away. You keep calling this protection. Because that's what it is. No, my voice shook, but I did not lower it. Protection gives someone a choice. Control removes it. Adrian's jaw tightened. If Price acquired the property, he would use it to reach you. And now you own it. What does that make you? Silence settled over the kitchen. Liam looked down at his bowl. Noah moved one step backward. Adrian's expression became unreadable again, but something changed in his eyes. Not anger. Recognition. I placed both hands on the marble island to steady myself. You can lock every door in this city and still call it safety, I said. But every cage believes it is protecting whatever it keeps inside. Adrian looked at me across the island. The stew continued to simmer behind us, filling the kitchen with the warm scent of peppers and garlic, while everything between us turned cold. You're right, he said. Noah glanced at him. Liam stopped breathing for a moment. I had expected Adrian to defend himself, explain his intentions, or remind me that he possessed resources I did not. Instead, he opened the folder, removed the ownership documents, and placed them flat on the counter. The diner will be returned to you by noon. I searched his face for a condition. What do you want in exchange? Nothing. Men like you always want something. Then consider this the first time I disappoint your expectations. His voice remained controlled, but something tired rested beneath it. I want to go home. Noah stepped forward. That isn't secure. Adrian raised a hand. Noah stopped. Have the car brought around, Adrian said. Adrian, Noah warned. She asked to leave. Richard Price knows where she lives. Then place security near the diner, Adrian replied. Across the street and out of sight. No one follows her inside. He looked at me. Would that violate your rules? It depends on whether you tell me the truth about it. 2 people will monitor the building from a parked car. They won't approach unless there is an immediate threat. And my phone. Untouched. My brother? He chooses for himself. Liam looked between us. I'm going with Claire. Adrian nodded. No argument. No command. That frightened me in a different way because I could see how much effort restraint cost him. 20 minutes later, Liam and I were traveling back to Queens in a black sedan. Adrian did not come with us. He stood beneath the townhouse lights as the car pulled away, one hand in his pocket, watching without trying to stop me. I had thought freedom would feel like relief. Instead, it felt strangely unfinished. Dawn was beginning to lighten the sky when we reached Bennett's diner. The neon sign had switched off on its timer. Rainwater collected beside the curb, reflecting the pale blue of morning. Nothing looked damaged. Nothing looked different. I unlocked the door and breathed in the familiar sense of coffee, old wood, and lemon cleaner. Home. Liam went upstairs to the small apartment above the diner while I checked every window twice. Across the street, a gray sedan rested beneath a street lamp. 2 people sat inside. Adrian had kept his word. By 10 o'clock, the regular customers arrived. Mr. Jenkins ordered eggs over easy and complained about the weather. A nurse from the urgent care clinic drank coffee at the counter. A construction crew filled the corner booth and argued about baseball. Ordinary voices. Ordinary problems. I moved between the tables with a coffee pot in my hand, trying to convince myself that ordinary life had taken me back. At 11:47, a courier entered carrying a flat envelope. Claire Bennett. I signed for it. Inside were the diner's loan documents, marked paid in full, along with a transfer agreement returning every share of the property to me. There was no note, no demand, only my name where Adrian's company had been. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I touched the signature at the bottom and remembered him admitting I had been right. Powerful men rarely did that. My mother used to say that an apology meant little without changed behavior. Adrian had changed his behavior before I had even asked for an apology. The diner telephone rang shortly after lunch. Bennett's diner. No one answered. I nearly hung up. Then a woman whispered, "Is this Claire?" I recognized the voice. "Vanessa Price. How did you get this number? It's printed on your menu." She sounded nothing like the polished woman from the hotel. Her breathing came too quickly. "I need to speak with you." "About what happened?" "Not over the telephone." I looked across the street. The gray sedan remained parked beneath a tree. "Where are you?" "A bookstore on 72nd Street. There's a cafe upstairs." "Why should I trust you?" "You shouldn't," she said. "But Adrian shouldn't trust my father." An hour later, I sat across from Vanessa in a quiet corner of the bookstore cafe. I had told Liam where I was going. The gray sedan followed at a respectful distance and remained outside. Vanessa wore jeans, a navy coat, and no diamonds. Without the white silk dress and the audience surrounding her, she looked younger. Frightened. She held a paper cup between both hands, but never drank from it. "The dinner was never a date," she said. "It was an agreement." "What kind of agreement?" "My father wanted access to Adrian's shipping contracts. Adrian wanted Price Financial to stop purchasing properties in neighborhoods where his businesses operate. So you were part of the negotiation." Her eyes lowered. I was the decoration that made it appear personal. I remembered the way she had humiliated Ethan. My sympathy resisted her explanation. "You weren't exactly kind that night." "I know." Shame crossed her face. "When I'm afraid, I become the person my father raised me to be." She reached into her purse and placed a small recorder on the table. "He told me the wine would make Adrian confused during the meeting. Nothing permanent. Only enough to make him sign documents he would normally reject." "You believed him?" "I wanted to." Her voice cracked. "After the dinner. Failed. I heard him speaking to someone. He said the kitchen worker had become useful because Adrian would protect her." Cold moved across my skin. Useful for what? To distract him. To make him react emotionally. My father believes a controlled man can only be defeated by giving him something he can't control. I stared at the recorder. "Why come to me?" "Adrian will assume I'm protecting my father. He may not listen to me. He listens more than people think. He listens to you." The certainty in her voice unsettled me. I looked through the cafe window at the city below. Adrian had allowed me to walk away. Now I had a choice. I could remain outside his world and hope it forgot me, or I could step back inside long enough to end the danger following my family. "We recreate the dinner," I said. Vanessa blinked. "What?" "The same room. The same table. The same people. Your father believes his plan is still alive. Let him continue believing it." By sunset, I was back at Adrian's townhouse. This time, no one had brought me there. I entered by choice. Adrian stood in the library beside a wall of dark windows. Surprise crossed his face when he saw me, though control quickly returned. "You came back. Don't make me regret it." I placed Vanessa's recorder on the desk and explained everything. Adrian listened without interrupting. When I finished, he asked, "You want to repeat the dinner?" "I want Richard Price to believe he still controls the room." "It's dangerous." "Then stop deciding what I can handle." His eyes held mine. What do you need? The Beaumont. Vanessa. The original staff. Independent investigators waiting nearby. And the same menu. A quiet, almost disbelieving breath left him. Including the stew? Especially the stew. Noah entered carrying his tablet. We have a problem. He turned the screen toward Adrian. Every administrative password connected to the Beaumont's security system had been changed during the past 5 minutes. Adrian studied the access log. My stomach tightened when I saw the authorization name. Noah Grant. Noah went pale. I didn't do this. Then every light in the townhouse went out. The darkness lasted for seconds. Long. Enough for the house to disappear. Long enough for Liam to call my name from somewhere near the hallway. Long enough for Adrian to move toward me without touching me. Stay where you are. Emergency lights came on, low and amber, turning every face into shadow and gold. Noah stood beside the library desk, his tablet glowing against his hands. The main system is offline, he said. Backup power is isolated from the network. Adrian looked toward the windows. The street outside remained illuminated. Only the townhouse had lost power. How? He asked. Noah tapped the screen. Someone used my credentials again. I watched him carefully. His voice sounded controlled. Too controlled. Perhaps I had spent too many years reading customers who claimed to have forgotten their wallets. Perhaps fear had made me suspicious of everyone. Still, one detail refused to leave my mind. Noah had known the passwords had changed before the lights failed. When did you receive the alert? I asked. His eyes shifted toward me. A few seconds before the outage. How many? Claire, Adrian said quietly. 7, Noah answered. The system reported unauthorized access 7 seconds before the power failed. I looked at his tablet. But you told us all the passwords had already been changed. Yes. Then how were you still receiving system alerts? Silence. Small. Sharp. Adrian turned toward Noah. For the first time, the trust between them looked less like stone and more like glass. Noah lowered the tablet. There are separate emergency permissions. Under whose control? Adrian asked. Noah did not answer. The power returned with a soft mechanical hum. Lamps brightened. The library became ordinary again, but no one relaxed. Adrian walked behind the desk, opened a drawer, and removed a small key card. He placed it on the wood between them. You designed the emergency permissions, he said. Noah's jaw tightened. I designed them to protect you. Then explain why they're protecting someone else. Noah looked at me. I understood. The second dinner was not merely bait for Richard Price. It was also bait for the person inside Adrian's circle. Noah understood that too. We continue with the plan, Adrian said. Tomorrow night. You can't use the Beaumont's security system, Noah replied. Then we don't use it, I said. Both men looked at me. The hotel depends too heavily on technology. Cameras, electronic locks, digital schedules. We make the room function without any of it. Adrian's eyes narrowed with interest. Explain. Printed guest lists. Mechanical keys. Staff selected in person. No wireless communication. No schedule changes after noon. If someone wants to interfere, they will have to enter the room and reveal themselves. Noah gave a humorless smile. You think running a dinner service is the same as exposing a conspiracy? No. Dinner service is harder. Conspiracies don't complain when the soup is late. Liam laughed from the doorway, then stopped when no one joined him. Adrian studied me for a long moment. We do it your way. By 6 o'clock the following evening, the private dining room at the Beaumont looked exactly as it had before. White roses, crystal glasses, pale candles reflected in dark windows. The same long table waited beneath the chandelier. Vanessa sat across from Adrian in a navy dress, her hands folded in her lap. Richard Price occupied the chair beside her. He was silver-haired and smiling as though nothing in the world had ever surprised him. I stood near the service table in a clean black uniform, the copper pot warming behind me. Noah remained beside the entrance. Calm, useful, trusted. It was the role he had played for 14 years. The violin began. Dinner moved forward. Richard spoke about investments, redevelopment, and mutual interests. Adrian answered with careful politeness. Vanessa barely touched her water. Every few minutes, her eyes found mine. Wait. That was the message in them. Wait until he believes it. The first course disappeared. Then the second. No alarms. No suspicious messages. No visible mistake. I began to wonder whether we had misunderstood everything. Then Noah checked his watch. Silver face. Black strap. The same watch from the security image. He touched its edge twice with his thumb. Across the room, one of the hotel employees moved toward the wall panel. I did not know what the signal meant, but I understood kitchen timing. One person moves. Another prepares. A plan becomes visible during the half-second before it begins. I lifted the copper lid. Steam rose in a thick red cloud. Now, Vanessa said. She placed the recorder beside her father's plate. Richard's smile vanished. His own voice filled the room from the device, discussing the wine, Adrian's signature, and the kitchen worker who could be used to distract him. Vanessa looked directly at her father. I saved every conversation. Richard stood. At that exact moment, the chandelier went dark. The wall lights followed. The dining room fell into blackness. Someone engaged the electronic locks on the main doors. A soft tone confirmed it. Nobody move, Noah ordered. His voice no longer came from beside the entrance. It came from behind Adrian. My heart struck once against my ribs. Then again, I reached for the only system I trusted. The mechanical fire alarm was mounted 3 feet from the service table. Red. Simple. Impossible to erase with a password. I pulled it. Bells erupted throughout the hotel. Emergency lights flashed. The fail-safe system released the electronic locks on the exits. Ventilation fans roared to life, drawing steam from the open pot across the room. Pepper filled the air. Eyes watered. People coughed and moved toward the exits because every hotel employee had been trained to evacuate when the alarm sounded. Richard tried to speak, but Vanessa collected the recorder and stepped away from him. Noah stood near Adrian with a second key card in his hand. Not a weapon. Something more valuable to a man like him. Access. Control. Proof. You were supposed to remain predictable, Noah told Adrian. Then she arrived. Adrian looked toward me through the red haze. He could have ordered the exits closed again. He could have allowed anger to choose what happened next. Instead, he held out his hand. Give me the card, Noah. Noah laughed softly. After everything I built for you. You built walls, Adrian said. She taught me the difference between walls and trust. For one long moment, no one moved. Then the independent investigators Adrian had positioned nearby entered with. Senior hotel security. Noah looked toward the open doors. There was nowhere left to hide and no system left under his control. He placed the key card on the table. Richard's recorded voice continued playing beneath the alarm. Every denial he attempted was answered by his own words. When the room had been secured, Adrian stood beside the ruined table while the last of the red steam faded around him. Noah and Richard were escorted away to answer questions. Vanessa remained near the window, shaking but free. Adrian looked at me. Tell me what to do. The most powerful man in the room was asking. Not commanding. Everyone heard it. The hotel staff. The investigators. Vanessa. Even Noah paused at the doorway. I looked at Adrian and understood that this was the real decision. Not whether Richard would lose his influence. Not whether Noah would lose his access. The decision was whether Adrian would return to the man he had been before I entered his life or become the man he kept promising he could be. Choose justice, I said. Not revenge. Adrian held my gaze. Then he nodded. For the first time, the entire room seemed to wait for my decision instead of his. Adrian kept his word. He chose justice. By midnight, the Beaumont had become quieter than I had ever known it. The violinist had gone home. The candles had burned down to shallow pools of wax. Hotel employees moved through the dining room, collecting untouched glasses and folding stained tablecloths. Investigators copied the recordings, reviewed access logs, and sealed the key cards Noah had used. Richard Price sat in a separate office with his attorneys. He was no longer smiling. Noah answered questions in another room, his silver watch resting inside a clear evidence envelope. Adrian could have controlled every conversation. He could have demanded special treatment. Instead, he gave the investigators full access to the hotel records and instructed his staff to cooperate. Then he stood beside the window and watched Manhattan glow below us. Is that all? He asked. Is what all? Justice. His voice sounded tired. Does it always feel this quiet? I joined him near the glass. 40 floors below, yellow taxis moved through the streets like tiny sparks. Justice is usually quieter than revenge, I said. That's why people confuse silence with weakness. You don't. I've run a diner through 3 rent increases, 2 broken freezers, and 1 summer without reliable air conditioning. I know silence can mean someone is calculating the next bill. The corner of his mouth moved. This time, the smile stayed. Vanessa joined us, still holding the recorder against her chest. Without the careful expression her father had taught her to wear, she looked frightened and relieved at the same time. "What happens to me now?" she asked. Adrian almost answered for her. Then he looked at me and seemed to remember what I had been trying to teach him. "What do you want to happen?" he asked Vanessa. She blinked. "No one has ever asked me that." "Then take your time." She looked through the window. "I want to leave my father's company. I want to finish my degree. I want to make amends to the people I treated badly because I was too afraid to challenge him." Ethan's face crossed my mind. "Start with the busboy," I said. Vanessa nodded. "I will." 3 days later, Richard Price resigned from every board that depended on Adrian's contracts. His financial company entered a formal investigation, and the property acquisitions connected to his plan were frozen. Noah's copied credentials, altered records, and private communications were turned over to the proper authorities. Adrian did not hide the evidence. He did not call in favors. He did not make anyone disappear. He allowed consequences to arrive under their own names. That choice cost him several powerful allies. It also earned him something he had never known how to request: trust. The following Monday, a courier arrived at Bennett's diner carrying a thick envelope. I expected another transfer document. Instead, I found the original loan marked satisfied, a clean property title in my name, and a letter from an independent attorney confirming that Adrian retained no ownership, lien, or hidden claim. Beneath the documents was one handwritten sentence: "No cage. No debt. Your choice." I read it twice. Then I placed the letter inside the cash register drawer beneath my mother's old recipe cards. Adrian did not call. He did not send flowers. He did not park a black vehicle across the street. The gray security sedan disappeared after the investigation ended. For the first time since the hotel dinner, no one watched the diner. I told myself that was what I wanted. Freedom should have felt warm. Instead, the empty space across the street bothered me more than I was willing to admit. Life returned to its usual rhythm. Liam complained about the breakfast rush. Mr. Jenkins argued that coffee had tasted better before people started naming every roast. The construction crew occupied the corner booth at 6:15 each morning. Vanessa visited one afternoon wearing a college sweatshirt and carrying a paper bag of pastries. She apologized to Ethan without excuses. He accepted, although he made her refill his coffee before he smiled. Weeks passed. Winter settled over Queens. The first snow arrived on a Friday evening, light enough to melt against the windows, but heavy enough to slow traffic. Every table in the diner was occupied. Wet coats hung from chair backs. The grill hissed. Coffee cups struck saucers. Liam shouted that table 6 needed more fries. I was carrying 2 plates toward the counter when the bell above the front door rang. Adrian stepped inside alone. No black suit. No guards. No private driver waiting at the curb. He wore a dark wool coat dusted with snow and looked strangely uncertain beneath the blue neon sign. Half the room recognized him. Conversations softened. Adrian glanced at the full tables before looking at me. "Do I need a reservation?" "At Bennett's diner?" I balanced the plates on one arm. "You need patience." "I've been practicing." I pointed toward a narrow bench beside the door. "Then practice over there." He sat. Adrian Cole, the man who could empty an entire hotel ballroom with one sentence, waited beside a coat rack while families finished burgers and teenagers shared milkshakes. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. He did not check his watch or ask for special treatment. When a tired mother entered with 2 young children, he stood and gave them his place on the bench. I noticed. Of course I noticed. 40 minutes later, a stool opened at the counter. I placed a menu in front of him. "You could have called. You might have said no. I still might. That's why I came in person." He looked around the diner, taking in the scratched counter, mismatched mugs, and framed photograph of my mother beside the register. "This place feels different without security watching it. It feels like mine. It always should have been." I reached for my order pad. "What will you have?" "The spicy beef stew." "It isn't on the menu tonight." "I can wait." I studied him. "You already waited 40 minutes. I've waited longer for things that mattered less." The words settled quietly between us. I went into the kitchen and opened the refrigerator. There was enough beef stock for 1 pot. Enough peppers. Enough time. When I returned an hour later, the diner had emptied. Snow pressed softly against the windows. Liam turned the sign to closed and disappeared upstairs with a smile he tried unsuccessfully to hide. I placed a steaming bowl in front of Adrian. He breathed in the scent, and something gentle moved across his face. "Careful," I said. "It's hotter than the last batch." He took a spoonful. His eyes watered immediately, but he refused the glass of water beside him. "Still needs more salt." I laughed. The sound filled the quiet diner and made the room feel less empty. Adrian lowered his spoon. "Claire, I'd like to take you to dinner. This is a diner. Then I'd like to take you to another dinner. No agreements. None. No business. None. No reserved ballroom, perfect table, or last-minute schedule changes." I was thinking pizza. I leaned against the counter. "That's surprisingly normal. I'm experimenting. And if I say no?" He looked at me without pressure, certainty, or expectation. "Then I finish my stew, pay the bill, and leave you free to change your mind, or never change it." That was the moment I believed him. Not when he returned the diner. Not when he exposed Richard. Not when he allowed Noah to face the consequences of his choices. I believed Adrian when he finally accepted that my answer belonged to me. "One dinner," I said. "One dinner," he agreed. "And you're waiting for the table." I wouldn't dare argue. Outside, the snow softened the city into silence. Inside, Adrian ate the stew that had once reminded him of everything he had lost. Now it tasted like something beginning. He could command a room with one look. He could move money, people, and entire businesses with a telephone call. But love did not begin when he protected me. It began when he stopped deciding for me. He had ruled the city by making everyone move aside. That night, he earned a place in my life by learning how to wait.